For most of American history, this was a receipt, a claim check, paper you could walk into a bank and trade for gold. The paper wasn't the money, the gold was the money. In 1933, Washington called the gold in. Months later, it repriced the ounce from $20.67 to $35. In 1944, in a hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, 44 nations wired their currencies to the dollar, and the dollar alone stayed wired to gold. One anchor, one chain, the whole world hanging off it. There was just one problem. America printed far more claims than it had gold. By 1971, foreign governments were holding billions in dollars that the gold behind them could never cover, and they were starting to ask for the metal. So on a Friday in August, President Nixon took his top advisors to Camp David in secret. 2 days later, on live television, he announced he was closing the gold window, quote, temporarily. That temporary measure is now in its 6th decade. Nothing was ever put back behind the receipt, and yet the whole world still runs on it. This is the story of the day money stopped being real. So, obvious question. Why should you care about a decision made before most people watching were born? Because your paycheck is priced in the thing that changed that Sunday. So is your rent, your savings account, and whatever's left on the car loan. Since that broadcast, the dollar has lost roughly 90% of its purchasing power. That's not a scandal. It's the design, and by the end of this, you'll see why it has to be. So here's the actual mechanism. The folk version, Nixon killed gold money in 1971, end of story, is wrong in at least 3 places and will knock them down in order. The true version is stranger. It has a trap in it, built by accident, discovered too late, and it ends on a question almost nobody answers straight. If the gold is gone, what's actually holding the dollar up? Start with the world the receipt lived in. Under the classical gold standard, a dollar wasn't a thing, it was a quantity. 1/20th of an ounce. Near enough, $20.67 bought the ounce by law, and that number did not move. Not in booms, not in panics. Walk into a bank in 1910, put a 20 on the marble, and the teller slid back a gold double eagle. The note in your pocket was the vault's IOU. It said so on its face, in engraved letters, payable to the bearer. Any teller window. Metal on demand. Between countries, gold was the settlement layer. Buy more from the world than you sold to it, and eventually the metal itself left the country, crated, weighed, shipped across the ocean to whoever held your paper. Central banks watched each other's vaults the way card players watch each other's chips, which built a discipline into everything a government did. It couldn't print what it couldn't back. Spend too much, and the gold drained away. Lose gold, and money at home got scarce. Credit tightened, prices fell, your exports got cheap, and the metal flowed home again. Brutal in the short run, self-correcting in the long one. Notice what that is. Automatic. No committee decides anything. No press conference moves markets at 2:30 on a Wednesday. The machine ran on 2 parts, a fixed number and the willingness to honor it. Hold on to that second part. The willingness is what breaks. And here's the part the gold crowd is simply right about. It held. A dollar at the outbreak of the First World War bought roughly what a dollar bought 80 years earlier. Not year to year. The swings could be vicious, and whole panics lived inside that flat average. But across generations, money kept its meaning. You could bury coins in the yard for 30 years and rob no one, least of all yourself. The metal didn't care who was president. That was the point of it. So, there's the folk model. Money is backed by gold. Gold is the money. Paper just carries it around, right? Wrong. And the interesting part is when it went wrong. Not 1971. 1971 is just when they admitted it. Wrong number 1. In April 1933, Executive Order 6102 gave Americans a few weeks to hand their gold to the Federal Reserve at the old price. Holding out was a federal crime. The penalties ran as high as 10 years in prison. It's a strange document to read now. All persons are required to deliver gold coin, gold bullion, gold certificates to the nearest Federal Reserve Bank by a date printed on a poster. 9 months later, the Gold Reserve Act moved the official price to $35. The government hadn't found more gold. It changed the number after it held the metal and you held the paper. From that day, an American dollar was a receipt an American couldn't redeem. And the right just to own the metal stayed gone for 41 years until December 1974, under Ford, when it came back to a country that had mostly stopped thinking about it. Redemption never came back at all. So when someone tells you money was backed by gold until 1971, for you, for your parents, it wasn't. It was backed by a price the government set on metal the government kept. Wrong number 2. What Bretton Woods actually built. 44 nations. July 1944. 3 weeks in a New Hampshire hotel, redrawing the world's money while the war still ran. The deal: every currency fixed to the dollar. The dollar alone fixed to gold at 35, and the window open to foreign governments and central banks only. Those 3 weeks also produced the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. The system got plumbing, staff, a headquarters. What it did not get was more gold. So here's what that deal actually meant for anyone holding a currency, anywhere. Follow the chain. Your francs were a claim on dollars, the dollars were a claim on gold. Ordinary citizens, anywhere on earth, touched no metal at all. The gold itself mostly sat still in vaults, while the paper promises circled the planet above it. Call the system what it was: a dollar standard, wearing a gold costume. Nobody hid this, by the way. It's in the founding documents. The world just preferred the costume, which worked beautifully, as long as nobody actually walked up to the window. So hold the picture at full speed. The whole planet holding receipts, for metal in a vault in Kentucky, and a promise, written in 1944, that nobody had ever really tested. The design guaranteed somebody would. And when the test finally came, ending 4,000 years of money took one weekend. In 1960, a Belgian-born economist at Yale sat before Congress and told them the system wasn't risky, it was doomed by design. Robert Triffin's logic runs like this. The world economy runs on dollars, trade invoiced in them, reserves held in them. So the world needs America to send dollars out, more every year, just to keep commerce breathing. But every dollar that leaves home is one more claim on the same fixed pile of gold. Run the machine, and the claims outgrow the metal until the promise turns into a bluff. Stop the machine, and the world's money supply starves. There was no third setting. The dial went from eventual default to global depression, and every government that understood it politely agreed not to look. Congress heard him out, thanked him, and did approximately nothing, because what was there to do? The trap wasn't a policy error someone could fix, it was the architecture. And every year the machine ran, the gap widened, quietly, in tables nobody read aloud. More dollars abroad, the same gold below. The tension wasn't a forecast, it was already on the books. Economists call it the Triffin dilemma. On this board, it's simpler. 2 strings, pulling one pin in opposite directions. Sooner or later, no villain required, no conspiracy, no mistake, the pin comes out. Through the 50s, nobody pulled the thread. Europe was rebuilding and glad of the dollars. But eventually the claims started coming home. France was loudest. In 1965, Charles de Gaulle put it on television. The system gave America what his own finance minister had already named the exorbitant privilege, the power to pay the world in paper only America could print. France converted dollars to gold by the hundreds of millions and shipped the metal home. You may have heard France sent a warship to collect it. Lovely story. We couldn't nail it down, so on this wall, it stays pinned as what it is, a legend. And that, incidentally, is wrong number 3. The folk version keeps the warship and loses the run. The run is the part that matters. What's documented is worse. The London Gold Pool, the United States, Britain, and 6 other central banks, quietly selling real metal into the London market to hold the $35 price, bled until it collapsed in March 1968. After that, the official price held only because officials agreed to stop testing it. A fixed price is only real while somebody will actually sell at it. After March 1968, nobody official would. In the second week of August 1971, even Britain came asking about cover for its dollars. What exactly was asked is still argued over. That it was asked at all is the point. When the country that invented the gold standard wants reassurance, the metal is there, the run is no longer coming. It has arrived. Here is the whole crisis in 2 pieces of string. The falling line is the gold America held, roughly $25 billion worth just after the war, barely 10 by 1971. The rising line is what foreigners could demand for it. 2 series, both from the Federal Reserve's own published tables. No estimates, no adjustments. Just what the vault held and what the world could ask of it. Watch the year they cross. Past that crossing, the gold window is a bank in a bank run. Every year it stays open, the vault gets lighter, and everyone holding dollars knows it. Friday, August 13th, 1971. Nixon helicopters, his economic team, to Camp David, Treasury Secretary John Connally, Fed Chairman Arthur Burns, a Treasury Undersecretary named Paul Volcker, whose own number said the window could not stay open, the speechwriter William Safire along to find the words, no calls out, roughly 15 men, one lodge, one weekend, to replumb the world's money. So the question on the table was never whether to rework the world's money. Paul Volcker's arithmetic had answered that with a resounding yes. The question was how to close the window and call it strength. The mood, by most accounts, men who knew they were rewriting the world's money, trying to sound casual about it. Connally, a Texas lawyer with no patience for monetary theology, is reported to have put the American position plainly. The foreigners are out to screw us, and our job is to screw them first. Burns argued for the system all weekend, warning of retaliation abroad and inflation at home. He lost. Saturday went to the details. The freeze, the surcharge, the speech. Sunday evening, 9 o'clock, the biggest audience slot American television had. The networks cut to the Oval Office, and Nixon announced a 90-day freeze on wages and prices, a 10% surcharge on imports, and, quote, I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold. Temporarily. No summit, no treaty, no vote. The monetary anchor of the world was cut loose in a televised address, between a wage freeze and an import tax, in a single subordinate clause. Monday morning, the world did not end. The Dow posted its largest one-day gain to date. The front pages led with the wage freeze. Gold ran below the fold, which is its own kind of unsettling. Everyone could now see the receipt had nothing behind it, and the market cheered. Wall Street had spent years pricing in the fear of exactly this announcement. When it finally landed, the ambiguity died with it, and traders bought the certainty. So what backed the dollar from that Monday on? Nothing. Then, everything. Taxes are payable only in it. Oil, within that decade, was invoiced in it. Every mortgage, every bond, every payroll written in dollars is one more reason somebody, somewhere, has to find dollars tomorrow. Your landlord does not want gold. The IRS will not take it. The anchor wasn't removed. It was replaced by the network of everything owed. So, money isn't backed by gold, and it isn't backed by nothing. It's backed by obligation, everything owed, priced in, the thing that can be printed, which sounds circular because it is. The circle is the system. The gold, by the way, is still there. Fort Knox, West Point, a vault 80 feet under the streets of Lower Manhattan. About 261 million ounces. Still on the Treasury's books, at $42.22 an ounce, a statutory price, set in 1973, which may be the strangest line item in American accounting. Nobody ever redeemed it. There's nothing left to redeem it against. Because the strangest fact in this whole file is the quietest one. Nothing was ever put back behind the receipt. No treaty replaced the one from 1944. Nobody ever voted to make it permanent. The arrangement your entire economic life runs on is, officially, a stopgap, waiting on a fix nobody is working on. That temporary measure is now in its 6th decade, and the word on the board is still the only word they ever gave us. Temporarily.